enhancement this week because we've got no Ander, but we have got Matt and we've got Sean, so that's an improvement to the show from the off, to be honest. So, good evening, Matthew. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
No problem. And Sean, thank you for joining, fella.
Always.
No problem. So we'll jump straight into it, lads. So obviously the fight from the weekend, Dalton Smith. We'll start with a couple of the fights on the undercard in no particular order and get your thoughts on it. So the first one is Opie Price. So did you both get sight of that fight? And if so, I can see you nodding, Matt. So I'll come to you first. So Matt, what did you think about Opie Price?
Enough performance. I wouldn't mind seeing him getting him out of there, if I'm honest with you, because it was a bit as good a boxer as he is, and I like him. I think he's a good prospect. I want to see him step up a bit more, if that makes sense. Maybe I'd like to see him just put his foot down a bit earlier. But got the win. Happy days.
Quite a one-sided fight though, Matt, wasn't it? You know, we didn't learn much.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, yeah, I'd like to have seen him. Yeah, like I said, I'd like to have seen him take him out really, but he was probably a bit tougher than he looked.
Yeah. And Sean, coming to you, what were your thoughts on the fight, and how far do you think Opie Price goes?
Yeah, I thought it was like a typical Price performance, really. He showed boxing skill and the skills he's... I think it's probably a bit early to... I would say at present he probably needs a good domestic fight and see where he goes from there.
Any names you'd want to throw in the mix for this domestic fight?
No, I haven't really got one on the top of my head, but I think a good yardstick to see how he gets on.
Yeah. I mean, just for the record, I come away thinking, well, I've not learned nothing more about how good he is. You know, it's a very one-sided fight over the 8 rounds. So I agree with both of you. I think it's time to step him up now. Not too quickly. It's a delicate matchmate, really. Not too quickly. But, you know, let's get him in with a live opponent who's going to ask a few questions of him. So next fight to cover is Campbell Hatton. Now, you know, we've obviously given Campbell a bit of stick on this show before. I'll come to you first on this one, Sean. What did you make of Campbell's performance?
Well, initially I thought he sort of showed something, but sort of I've spoke to people and I think that it wasn't the best. I think for him it's just really going to be sort of a slow process, and we can't really be for him. I think he needs to fume that and just reassess him in a year's time, really.
What about you, Matt?
Yeah, loading up with like almost every punch, you know what I mean? And it was getting a little bit predictable. It was sort of like 1-2 to the head, left hook, and then he was, you know, obviously trying to left hook to the body as well, and it just got a little bit. Yeah, it just got a little bit on with Sean. Like he's everybody knows that he's limited sort of amateur. There's enormous pressure on the kid's shoulders, like enormous pressure. His best fight in Spain. He looks so much more relaxed. He looks so much more, he boxed his way in more. I think just because he is obviously like Ricky's son, and you want to give him sort of, you know, I want to give him all the praise and all the credit. Was he 19? 19 is he? Something like that.
Yeah, around that age, isn't he?
He's such a young lad, and he's got to deliver this in a big spotlight with a big shoulders. So I agree with Sean, and I think I've said on here before, like if it took him sort of like to the British title level, then so be it. There's no, at that age there is no hurry. So
The only thing I would say was I was quite shocked how his opponent had early success in that. I mean, he came out very quick, didn't he, his opponent? And it worries me that such a limited fight is having so many spells of success throughout the fight. That's the only bit that worried me. I agree you've got to give him time to learn, but how long can we say that for? You know, how long?
Everybody's going to have a different opinion, aren't they? Like, you know, some people are going to, just because they see you're more casual fan, will just see the name and expect him to be blasting through people and be winning a world title in the next. You know, I think we all know by watching him that, you know, I can't think of names off the top of my head at British title level at his weight, but he probably still needs more, you know, more shows just out of thing. I'd give him, like I said, well, gets to a British title in sort of 16, 17 fights. I'm fine with that. That doesn't bother me. You know.
Yeah, my only concern is if he's not good enough, though, you're not good enough. No matter how many fights you give him. That's all I'll say.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's fair enough. But you can have late bloomers.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
Okay, moving on then. I'll come to you first on this one, Matt. It's Johnny Fisher. Quite an intriguing one, this. So what did you make of Johnny Fisher's performance?
Absolutely love the knockout. It was the way the right hand with the right hand again. It was like, I don't want to, this is going to sound awful because I don't want to make discrediting the knockout. It looked like the sort of thing you get in the pub a little bit where I'll smash you with the second one. And it was just brilliant. In heavyweight boxing, that's what people want to see.
Yep.
You know, they want to see a heavyweight bark people out, and he can do it. He looks, again, I don't think he had a background. He's not got a massive amount of experience, but he looks very natural to me. He looks like a natural boxer. He comes across as a nice bloke again. Do you know what I mean? Very likeable. Obviously, you know, he's drumming up a massive following. Again, he's going to be fed the sort of the types of opponents that you like, of sort of AJ was, other heavyweight prospects. You know what I mean? Like, more of the same, please.
So, Sean, obviously break down the fight, but is Johnny Fisher becoming a bit of a dark horse within the domestic heavyweight scene?
Yeah, I think he has the potential to do so. I think it's probably to be sort of looking at the higher domestic level at the moment. But I think, you know, maybe like that. I know they're on a different network, but they're sort of at a similar stage of their career, I think. And Fisher, I think probably they could headline him on the next gen card. The support he gets, well, whether that's too soon, I'm not sure.
Does he beat Wardley or Babbage at the minute, Sean?
I think he beats Babbage. I think Wardley was for him, but I think that's probably too early for him at the moment.
Okay. What about you, Matt? Do you think he beats Wardley or Babbage?
I agree with Sean. I think he beats Babbage. I think, you know, I had Wardley in my head just before you mentioned him. I think that'd be a good. I don't think that fight won't happen anytime. I mean, you can imagine you could potentially see that for a British title in a year's time, maybe. I know we're up the pecking order, but
and you can throw Gorman in that mix, can't you?
Yeah, it depends what sort of Gorman you get.
Yeah. Okay, moving on then. So, Sean, I'll come to you first for the breakdown. This one is Sandy Ryan. She got quite emotional afterwards, but give us your breakdown on Sandy Ryan.
I don't know about you guys. I thought it was quite a hard fight to watch, really. I don't think it showcased women's boxing in the best light, really. I think Sandy Ryan deserved that. You know, I don't think she's going to be a world beater, not of that performance. I I thought she gets hits too much. She doesn't really have offense be fruitful like the higher echelons you go. And yeah, as I say, I just don't think it was a particularly good fight to watch.
What about you, Matt?
I think it was about. I think the important thing was getting the win. It wasn't. I agree, Sean. I don't think it was. It wasn't a great fight, was it? To watch, she showed more discipline than in the first fight. You could sort of like, stick around for too long and trade a little, but she boxed quite disciplined, and she got the win. I think that was the most, and I wasn't aware of, all the supposed sort of struggles that she'd had lost. Sometimes you just got to get the ball rolling again, and she won. Sort of push on from.
I think she was a victim of coming on the back end of what have been some great female fights over the previous few weeks, isn't she? Because that was nowhere near levels of the other fights. And let's be honest, not every fight's going to be stellar, is it? Just like not every male fight is stellar. So yeah, she got the job done, and she moves on, I guess. So moving on to the main event, which is Dalton Smith. So Sean, I'm coming to you on this one. I'm a big fan of Dalton Smith. I think he's got a lot more levels in him, and I think he just proved too good for Sam on Saturday night. But give us your breakdown and how far you think Sam will go. Dalton will go.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think a second guess, if I'm being honest, really. I think it was sort of quite tough to watch at times because his opponent was coming almost like a punch bag towards the end of the fight, and I think it probably could have been stopped sooner. He can go. I think probably the sky's the limit for him, really. I can see him going all the way and becoming a...
Yeah. Mate, you look like he was more worried. I said it to you on Twitter during the fight, Sean. Like he looked more worried about what Dalton was doing himself, sort of thing. He looked more worried about the punches he was throwing in fear of what Smith was going to do. It was a proper sort of, I feel sorry for fighters in that situation, deer in the headlights moment. And Smith was he was clinical. So what you want about the opponent, but you can only beat who's in front of you, and he put a punch perfect. Yeah, and the knockdowns in the end, it was just it was not easy for him. Yeah, he was timing the right hand really well.
I thought he's a classy operator, Dalton Smith, isn't there? And I think you throw him in next, I would give someone like Lewis Ritson a shout out.
Yeah.
Quite decently ranked at world level on various governing bodies, and I think that's a good step up for Dalton. If the matchmaking right, I think he goes to a world title shot.
What was the other one we said Saturday? Robbie Davis Jr. as well would be a decent for him.
Good shot.
I don't think either of them would want it.
Say again, Sean.
I said there's O'Hara Davis out there as well. I think Sandor Martins just pulled out. I think that was for a final eliminator. So it's probably too soon, but I guess that fight's out there for him.
Yeah, there's some couple of good opponents here. They are. So moving on then to a bit later on Saturday night. So we had Ortiz, Junior. So did you watch this fight, lads? I'm assuming. Did you see it, Sean? Yeah. Did you see it, Matt?
Yeah.
I didn't see it live. I watched the highlights.
But you've had sight of it, okay. So,
yeah,
Sean, we'll come to you first, Sean. I mean, I was very impressed by him. I thought McKinson left it all in the ring, but it just wasn't good enough, is my honest evaluation. But, Sean, over to you. Give us a breakdown of the fight, and where does Ortiz go next?
Well, you would think probably someone like they'll want to push him in that direction, because I'm not sure they'll put him for a world title yet. I think in a sort of fringe gatekeeper for next. I thought McKinson was brave for taking the fight, but ultimately, it just shows sort of the levels of the elite and the sort of European fringe world level, and I think that showed. And Ortiz again, he's another one where no one really wants to fight him because of how good he is and what he's knocked out all of his opponents. So it's going to be hard to see how they get him a real big fight without sort of putting him in a mandatory position, I think.
Yeah, I mean, them body shots, I was feeling it on the sofa, never mind McKinson in the ring, you know. So, Matt, over to you. Break down the fight and, you know, where does this leave Conor Benn, Matt?
So, firstly, I mean, if you're going to keep Ortiz off, you need something that just didn't have anything to dissuade him, sadly. You've got to have something, if you're going to be, you've got to have at least one world-class attribute, whether it's your punching power, whether it's your boxing. You know, you've got to have a particular skill set. And like Sean said, it sort of showed his level. You can't, you got, Jesus. If you don't give him something to think about, you're not going to stop him. Where does it leave Conor Benn? I don't think Conor Benn. I don't know, to be honest with you. Is the honest answer, mate.
Matt, could you class McKinson as a bit of a yardstick now for Ben to jump in with?
It would be a natural one, yeah. I can only just going on that performance, like I would say Ben dispatches him. If he's not got the power, like I said, if you've not got the power to keep somebody off, he's not going to keep. He wouldn't keep.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work the timeline out, Matt, because obviously he's going to fight Eubank Jr., which is, by all accounts, signed off on the 8th of October. Should that be a barnstorming fight? My understanding is he's got a rematch clause to do it again. So then you're talking at what? March, April time? So before he even looks at re-entering that weight class, you're looking at what? Summer, autumn next year?
Yeah.
I'm not sure where it leaves him, to be honest.
I mean, I'd probably talk about the whole sort of that fight just leaves me feeling very, sorry, mate.
I'm quite torn by. I don't know about you, Sean. I'm quite torn by the fight because would I watch it? Yes, but does it help either of their careers? No. So, as a boxing purist, I consider myself, I'm quite torn. What do you think, Sean? Because it looks like it's going to happen.
Yeah, I would say I was probably more keen when I thought it'd be more in the middle. Now it's at 157, 158. I mean, it's not really a catch weight at all, really, is it? I mean, I suspect Eubank could get off the £2 with ease. It feels like it's sort of all in Eubank Jr.'s favour. And Conor Benn, we all know Eubank Jr.'s chin, so it's going to take something special for Conor Benn to knock him over on. And, you know, it's hard to see how it's anything just in a pay ring, really.
Yeah. Okay, so that's our views on Ortiz Jr. I wanted to get your take on this one, lads. So, Queensbury Promotions announced today that Frank Warren's won a purse bid for Callum Johnson versus Joshua Baratza. So this is for the European title at light heavyweight. So Eddie Earns, obviously, there's debates whether the fight will happen. Probably not, because Earns already come out and said he's looking at taking Baratza a different direction. But what I want to focus on is, although we don't think the fight will go ahead, why do we think Eddie Earns keeps losing purse bids? So I come to you first, Sean. Is it that he's done his budget on Joshua and Canelo, and there's nothing left in the pot? Or what? Why do you think? Because it's not good image, is it? Keep losing purse bids. So what do you think, Sean?
Well, according to Eddie Hearn, I don't think he even put a bid in for this fight, because I think with Batsy, I think that got him a final eliminator. I've seen reports that he's got one. I'm sort of on the first bid really, because there's not detail to see. I mean, what the bids are or what Frank. But I think, you know, if it was a fight he wanted and a fight that Matcham wanted to promote, I wanted to really hurt and could blow the water out with him really in the purse bids.
But he couldn't do it for Fury, could he?
I think that was slightly different because obviously Fury was the champion and he held all the cards in that purse bid. I think so. A normal purse bid, if you like, it's a different situation.
So you still think DAZN got the upper hand over Frank Warren in the majority of cases?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Sean? Matt? What about you, Matt?
I think, yeah, it's like with the Fury Whyte fights sort of thing. I mean, let's be fair, Eddie, he didn't skimp on what he bid, but astronomical bid sort of thing. So I wouldn't look too much into that fight, feeling pretty confident with what was it? He bid like $34 million, was it, or something like that? Which was still would have, if he'd have won, it would still would have been the highest purse bid ever. So I saw this today, and I just had a little snigger to myself because anything for a good bit of PR to make it look like Matchroom. Do you know what? It's really that this fight gets the purse bid for it for a bona fide title. I don't title is you know is well worth winning in my opinion. Maybe I'm a bit of a tradition. I'm very sad that this fight actually won't take place because I think it's a bloody good fight. And you know, light heavyweights there that should be meeting each other. And if
it's a good point. I mean, Matt, in terms of the light heavyweight division, the world titles are all tied up, aren't there? So there's a strong urge. Why don't we have a domestic British tournament? You know, because there's some damn good light heavyweights, isn't there? It could make them a lot of money, and we'd all watch it. Let's be honest, and it would help the light heavyweight division in its exposure.
Yeah, massively. What the pitfalls of trying to make that sort of thing would be, and the likelihood of it. But I think when you're seeing good fights going begging, and what happens when he passes on it, I don't know I haven't got a clue who's where in the European ranking sort of thing. It just leaves. I feel sorry for Callum Johnson because it still leaves him out in the wilderness.
Yeah,
he made the move to Queensbury to hopefully get like more activity. Unfortunately, I know he's had a couple of injuries thrown in again, which is never helpful. But he's still not. How many years maybe? I can remember 2 fights.
Yep.
Like it's not good. And then I saw like Lyndon Arthur went and joined Pro Bellum, was it? So could have made the European title fight for Johnson against Lyndon Arthur. But it's still a good fight for Callum Johnson.
It makes me wonder what Eddie Hearn's got planned for Baratza though, because obviously he tried to make the WBA put a voluntary in place against Bivol, but WBA turned it down, says it ain't happening. So it does make me wonder where Hearn's going to take Baratza.
I think it's Jean Pascal, I think, who he's supposed to be fighting.
Does that really get us excited? You know, I'd rather see him in with Callum Johnson rather than Pascal. Interesting. So, moving on. So, this is another rumour that should Devin Haney be Kambosos in the rematch in October, there's an agreement in place to fight Lomachenko after that fight. Now, I know this is what a fight that would be to start with, but I'll come to you first, Matt. Let's do a bit of a virtual one here. So, if that fight takes place between Haney and Loma, who are you picking? It's a damn good fight.
It is. anything new from Haney in the Kambosos rematch that's going to make me think. I would. Now, I know you don't like people sitting. I honestly don't know.
Don't do an Andy on me. I was hoping to go for an old show with people who actually make decisions and answers.
I would go. I would stick with Lomachenko.
Oof. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, and this is going with Lomachenko, but I think sort of maybe and things are starting to happen now, and I think Devin Haney beats him. I think he's.
I'm leaning towards Devin Haney because I don't know why people have gone in on him for his performance against Kambosos. I thought that was an actual punch perfect performance. In the lines Dynamite had, with a disruptive camp where his dad didn't land until God knows when. I thought he'd shown a lot of calmness and professionalism, and I thought he was absolutely class in the ring. These idiots who go in on Haney, you can't have a knockout every time, and just because he didn't knock the guy out doesn't make it not a good performance. It was sweet signs for me, and I think Devin Haney's on the rise, and I think he beats Loma. I think he beats him on points. But what a fight that would be!
I think what doesn't help Haney is sort of like Mayweather comparison and everything, and I think just because stylistically there's a lot of Mayweather's sort of career, that type of style in his makeup, and I think people just sort of automatically just sort of think, and I'm talking more sort of like about more sort of sports fans as opposed to boxing fans.
Yeah.
That makes him too much of an easy target sort of thing. Look, I'd be exceptional. I think that's too good for his own good, and he'll never get credit sort of either way. So
it's a what you like fight, isn't it? If one is. So, anything else to add on that, lads, before we move on to the next rumor?
There's
no
at least one more out of Lomachenko. I think there's one more.
You really think so,
fight in there. I do. I really do. I think the geezer's class, absolute class. I think, and I think, I think there's one more performance in there. All right, darling.
So, last topic: Dillian Whyte to fight Daniel Dubois rumor. So, Sean, I'll let you take this one first. It's your rumor. So, take it away, Sean.
Yeah, it's just something I've on social media of a few sort of lower level, let's call them, boxing journalist has put out that there's been a contract and they anticipate it being signed. I mean, I think Dillian Whyte beats Dubois. I think Dubois is quite limited, really. I've never bought into his height, really. I think he's a one-tower, and I think sort of anyone with a bit of speed and movement.
Matt, what do you think?
I didn't really entirely catch every 3 and 6-year-old in the ear, mate.
Give us a breakdown of who wins and why.
I think Dubois wins. I think, I mean, probably for the same reasons you think Haney beats Lomachenko. One's on the rise and one's on the fall. See the fight. I really would like to see the fight because I think it'd be a true test of where Daniel Dubois is at now. I think he'd win. I think he'd win.
Matt, do you think he's got better since post Joyce fight?
I've seen an opponent to properly judge him on that. I've not seen anything drastically new. There might be a little bit more patience in there, a bit more use of the jab and boxing his way in. But we've not had an opponents that are going to give him rounds again. He got found out against Joyce, fair enough. Dylan 8-10 rounds, and that's where we're going to be. that's where you'd be able to judge him better. Look, if he pulls a punch out and he knocks out Dillian Whyte in 4 rounds, what do we say about him then? What do you reckon, Carl?
Yeah, so I think Dillian Whyte would knock Dubois out. I don't particularly rate Daniel Dubois. I don't see, he didn't just get beat by Joe Joyce. I think he got took apart, and I don't see. I know he's only had that farce of a fight in Miami, wherever it was. But I just think there's levels to this game, and I think Dillian Whyte I think you got Tyson Fury, who's clearly the best in the division. And then you got the Dillian Whyte. Sorry, you got the Deontay Wilder. Now, don't put Dillian Whyte in his league, by the way. I've said that all along. And then I think Dillian Whyte's in that next tier down from Deontay Wilder. So I think it'll be a good fight as long as it lasts. But I think Dubois is too easy to hit. I think Dillian Whyte would knock him out. That would be my view. I know he's got Shane McGuigan now, but I still don't see that real improvement in Dubois. I don't think he's got the ring craft. So I think Dillian Whyte would win that fight.
I reckon
and obviously Dillian Whyte's a free agent at the minute by all accounts, isn't there? So that fight could, he could go and fight on the BT platform. I know Frank Warren said he's in talks with his camp about fighting on BT. So it could be feasible, Sean.
He put a comment out. I should say that he was, he's ready to get. He's a bit bored with his feet up, and he wants to have another.
What do you make of Tyson Fury looking to fight Del Boy? It won't go away though, will it? And they're both doing the little bit on social media, I think, to create some hype. So normally where there's smoke, there's fire. What do you think, Matt?
I agree. It looks, even at this early stage, and it's not. I think it's two mates who know what they're doing in terms of, shot at the world title, and they both get to make a fight. Sadly, we're not going to, unless really improved since that second fight. But Fury's on a different planet, and it would be like, do you know what I mean? No, do they? Let's be fair. And the timing would strike me as a little bit weird, as if Fury wants to, if he actually wants to fight the winner of Usyk and Joshua, between him and Chisora gets made, you've got to factor in time for a camp for each of them. So what's happening? What we're now, August, what we're talking, October, November, which is another 3 months, Joshua and Usyk, and the winner of that is going to have on them by the governing bodies to defend against the mandatory if they can't get a fight made with it just, I don't get it, but no, is it?
Sean, do you think it happens?
No, I think it's a farcical fight, really, what happened in their second fight. I mean, WBC even sanction it? That's the question. For example, if it was for a British title, Ford wouldn't sanction the fight, and I think that should be the case for this. I mean, it doesn't really even generate much money. I mean, although they're against the time of year, it doesn't really sell any stadium, I don't think, and I don't think it's a pay-per-view fight either. It will be if it happens. I just think it's farcical. Finland today or Iceland chasing that 4 around. So who knows what's going on really? I mean, it's just all Tyson Fury's mind games. I think.
Should we be worried by some of his antics? Thinking about mental health.
I mean, he's spoken before, hasn't he? Sort of, he does the rash things when he's like bored or boredom. But I think he's with it, and you would think he would sort of keen, straight and narrow with it. But again, is he just sort of games, or does he generally want to people would, I don't know, rather see him in with Wilder again than Chisora.
Yeah. Go on,
He's a walking contradiction, isn't he? Let's be honest with you.
yeah.
To me, he's like I don't know if you watch films, Carl, but he's like the Joker. He's just wants to cause anarchy to me, and he'll still, if that's related to his mental health, then obviously so be it. But just throughout his career, does all sorts of stuff. Like I said, he's
And
a
it's
walking
quite interesting,
contradiction.
Matt. I mean, Loose Wilnut makes a point in the sideways, so it's just another way to have a pop at Earn. He does become more vocal on social media during an anti-Joshua fight build-up, don't it?
Yeah, and that's what caused chaos. He just, he keeps everybody count of how many times he's retired. And I don't think anybody.
1 minute he wants $500 million. Then he'll fight for free on free-to-air TV. So who knows? Okay, last topic then, lads. I thought I'd throw this one in. Obviously, Leigh Wood has been dropping a lot of hints on social media, both Instagram and Twitter. Other brands are available and all that rubbish regarding the fight announcement pending. So I've come to Matt first, any right? Matt, who do you think this opponent is on September the 24th?
I mean, I believe, they've obviously been sort of quite, I think, and the reason I say that is I think if it was going to be against Kiko or a lesser opponent, I think he'd probably get a bit of stick for it. They seem quite. I think it's Lara.
I don't know about you with that, if it's Lara, he's got some balls in it. Because what makes me smile is he's calling it, well, he's not calling that, but a lot of people are a tick-over fight. So I'm not sure when Mauricio Lara has become a tick-over fight. I hope it's not Martinez, but it could well be Martinez, couldn't it? Quite easily.
I mean, Ben Davison sounds can beat Lara, and I would. I don't know him personally, obviously, but I trust him enough when I listen to him talk as to. I think he genuinely beat Lara. It would take good boxing performance because it would have to be. He would have to be very. He'd have to be quick on his feet, busy with a jab. Stuff has got coming back his way. It would take a very disciplined and possibly a wide points win sort of thing. Because if he gets in and starts trading with it like he trades with Conlon, I can't make a case for him.
Over to you, Sean. So, Sean, who do you think this announcement is going to be? Because we've been hanging on for a long time for this announcement now, haven't we?
Yeah, right, I agree. I mean, if it is sort of a tick-over fight, a fight I wouldn't mind seeing, so that be, I think he's Warrington, isn't he? But I think, that could be a decent fight for
Nick Ball, Sean.
No, was it I think that he beat on an MTK show? This was probably, I don't know, really at the start of the year. I can't think of the guy's name, but yeah, I'm sure it was on TK show. And then he come back against Nick Ball, didn't he? That was sort of his comeback fight. That's particularly backfired. I think he could be a good fight for him. Probably would if it is Lara. I think he's got to put in a Zuka-like performance, how he was boxing there. I agree. I don't think he can be reckless because it will just become a shootout, and I think that's what he.
Now, I watched Leigh Wood versus Conlon rematch only this afternoon, and that was some heavy knockdown, that first knockdown when Conlon put Wood down. So you wouldn't want him taking too many shots like that, would you? And you could argue that Lara's more powerful than Conlan, I'd argue. Does he beat Lara, Matt?
Yeah, I think he can. I think he can. And like I said, and I get that belief from just a few bits the few snippets I've heard from Ben Davison.
What about you, Sean? Does he beat Lara? You're a bit less invested
Yeah, I
than
think.
me. And
Yeah,
Sean Loose Wheelnut doesn't think he does.
About Leigh Wood, sort of the career he's had. I don't think he gets sort of credit from general boxing fans, really. I always see people bet against him and think he'll lose the title fights. But I think, and let's hope it propels into a big fight, whether that's America or against Warrington next year.
One thing, the 24th of September, is that the same date as Joyce Parker?
It is,
See,
yeah.
Let's say he does fight Lara. That is a big fight. But it will just completely go under the wayside again. I've said before here, never got the the scope that it deserved. And if he goes against each other on the night, there's going to be more eyes. I know it's a pay-per-view show, but there'll still be more on the Parker Joyce fight. And
it's a rumoured date, Matt. A rumoured date.
Yeah.
But that.
I get.
Yeah.
I get that, but it's I would hate to see it go up against that, because for me personally, I think against Parker, but it won't get the traction. It won't get the column in another career best performance, and probably just go completely unnoticed again.
I obviously think Wood will beat Lara. I think Lara's slight. I think Warrington's on the slide. Yes, and they drew didn't the last time because of cut or something. But I think Leigh Wood will knock him out. I might be a bit biased, but I'll stick to that. So finally, Joyce versus Parker. Let's have some predictions on that one. So Matt, I'll come to you first. Who wins that one?
Joyce for me. Joyce wide on points, I think.
You think he'll outbox him?
I just think he'll outbox him and outbludgeon him. I think, to be perfectly honest with you, you know what you're going to get with a dance around the ring. He's going to go straight for you, and there's nothing. Parker. I've not seen he's obviously been with Andy Lee and everything, and I've not seen the influence of that was supposedly coming his way. He doesn't look like a cronk fighter in the slightest. You've got to be, like I said earlier, if you're going to deter somebody, you've got to have something to put them. I think the only thing I was saying in the week was I've seen Joyce hurt to the body before. You've got to invest in the body early and try and slow him down that way, maybe, because I just think otherwise,
Yeah. There's a reason why they call him the Juggernaut, isn't there? Sean, how do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I agree. I think Joyce walked through him round 6, round 7, 8, about then. But one thing I would sell, I think, I can't see it selling 20,000 and pay-per-view. It will do that. But let's get it right. I mean, Joe Joyce isn't really things, is he? And Parker the same. I think they almost have to have the Frank Warren and sort of back and forth to put interest in the fight, really, because I just think it'll be a hard sell, and I think general fans, I think, would watch Leigh Wood over that fight. Maybe have a few casuals that opt for the heavyweights, but I think if you're a proper boxing fan, Lara, watch that night.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to look at the undercard, to compare the undercards, won't it? Because that will go a long way with these two fights as well. But Matt, no doubt me and you'll be there, won't we?
Yeah, if I can get a seat where there's not a shed load of drunks or something like that. I mean, we check the feature list that day, and there's no Forest aren't at home, so.
Yeah. And sure, maybe you can travel up from where you live and maybe come up and have a night on the tiles with me and Matt. So Loose Wheelnut says, why didn't Joyce aim for Wilder? Much bigger fight and gets his name right up there, ready for a bigger payday.
That's that Wilder would want to come back against Joyce. You could call Wilder out. Wilder's going to be thrown in with is it Hellenius? No, not it was it. Yeah, I saw that this week. So
that's an horrific fight, isn't it? I don't know what you two think, but it's horrific. That's going to be. There's only one way that fight's going.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. One man's going out on a
that would be a good
and it won't.
Yeah, that would be a good fight down the road there, wouldn't it, Joyce versus Wilder? Because Joyce ain't going nowhere, is it?
No, but I'd like the Wilder right hand because I think you might see some. think you might see his knees wobble. But I'd definitely like to see it. It'd be a scrap as long as it lasts.
Yeah. I've made the point many times on this show that I don't believe anyone can make Wilder look as bad as Tyson Fury did. You know, Tyson Fury is a special talent, so I put Wilder right up there, even now in the heavyweight division.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think. I'll be honest with you. I think he beats Joshua. I think Wilder would beat Joshua because he would land, and I believe he would beat Usyk. People look at me crazy when I say that. I believe he would land on Usyk. He's only got to be perfect for 2 seconds. And he's good night Vienna. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Wilder does when he comes back. Very interesting.
I think the heavyweight division needs him. It really it does. I mean, him as a bloke and some of the stuff he says. Say what you want about his fighting style. I mean, everybody knows he's not the best natural. You know, in terms of boxing ability, he's not the purest. I don't think I've seen a one-punch knockout artist like him. You know, in the times that I can remember watching boxing, sort of thing. And what people want to see, if you want eyes on the sport, what was it? Knockouts.
People want knockouts, don't they? So, one final question then, Matt: who does beat Wilder in the current heavyweight division apart from Tyson?
Look, Josh can beat him, but you favour Wilder on the laws of averages. He's only got to land one right hand. Look, if he lands the right hand on Joshua, it's good night. It really is. I think Dick has the boxing ability to beat him. By the way, I think him and if he fight, I think it'd be too cagey. I think Joshua would be too worried about the right hand, and Wilder's not very good at boxing himself into range. I think it'd be a stalemate for Joyce maybe. He's probably got the best chin I've seen amongst the heavyweights. Who else has got?
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. Somehow Fury kept on getting up.
I know. So you're saying Joshua? You're giving a bit of an Andy answer here, aren't you? So Joshua maybe.
All right, neither of them do. Then he knocks everybody out. There you go.
What about you, Sean?
Yeah, I think we'll have to see Wilder comes back because that was a bad defeat to Fury twice, and they've taken everything away from him. We've seen it in boxing so many times. When a fighter has a bad loss and they lose confidence in themselves, I don't think he'll ever lose confidence because it's phenomenal. But what I do think is he may be gun shy slightly because of what's happened to him. I think in terms of AJ, I think AJ probably beats him, but I wouldn't put too much confidence in that. But yeah, I guess see how he comes through Genius, and then we got a better sort of course of how we'll be.
All I would say is that I wouldn't be confident that AJ can keep away from that right hand for 12 rounds.
Yeah.
I think AJ's a sort of an boxing. Yeah, we're sort of underrated. We've seen in a few fights. Sort of, he's got a good skill set, but I think for him, it's sort of a belief. I think a lot of it with AJ, his own mindset. Because I think I not next week, but I think he beats Usyk this time, and I think with AJ, it's more so anything else.
So Lewis Wilnut in your side makes a good point. Wilder needs to come to the UK to make a statement. Fight Whyte, maybe. That's a good shout. He can make a lot of money in the UK. Wilder could, couldn't he? Because we'd all watch it.
Yeah, he'd sell out. You could they spoke about the Chisora fight sort of thing, and everybody obviously said it would be like everybody was right if that happened. But if you put Chisora, if you brought Wilder over and put Chisora out, that sells the O2, that sells the Manchester Arena. Do you know what I mean? Like, people will.
I would argue that Wilder puts more bums on seats in the UK than he would in the US.
Yeah.
So Lewis Wilnut says if Joshua does the job in 4, but after that can't see it, I'll go a bit longer. I'm going to go 5 or 6 regarding the Usyk fight. I think he's got a window of 6 rounds to get Usyk out of there. Because after that, I think he'll be gassing. I'd just hope he goes in there and looks to take his head off. That's what I hope.
He's not gonna win on points. If the fight goes 12 rounds, you're not gonna be confident that Joshua's going to win on points. He would have, because, and the reason I say that is because I think we all agree that I think the whole world knows that the chance that Joshua's got is being physical and bullying Usyk.
Yeah.
And if he can do that extends it for 12 rounds.
He needs to employ the dark arts, don't he, Matt? He needs to employ the dark arts, the leaning on him, leaning his weight on him, and just tire Usyk out. I'm not saying it's easy.
Yeah.
But anything but what he tried to do with the game plan in the first fight. Anything but that.
I want to see the Anthony Joshua that fought Dillian Whyte. You know, he gets sticking his tongue out at him, he's sneering at him, his face. He's lost that. He's lost the dog a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Say it on Twitter or something, like sort of post Klitschko, he's been a bit cautious and what have you. Do you know what I mean? He's a slightly different fighter.
Yeah. I agree with Sean though. I think AJ beats Usyk in this next fight. What do you think, Matt? I know we're going to cover it next week.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it has to be. I just don't think he can be as last time, but you know what I mean. Like he can't turn that sort of performance in again. No.
So we will be covering that in more detail next week on the show. I'll bring the show to an end there. So Matt, thank you very much for your contributions, young man. Sean, thank you very much for your contributions. Comments in the side, including Lewis Wilnut. Same time next week, we'll cover the Joshua fight in more detail, like I've said. Thank you all for coming. See you next Thursday. Cheers, lads.